A teenager is behind bars accused of fatally beating his grandmother. At around 5:45 p.m. on Wednesday the 29th of October 2025, emergency crews responded to a 911 call after family members discovered 73-year-old Ollie Hamilton severely beaten inside Smith Chapel Holiness Church along Burr Road in Aberdeen, Mississippi, a church she regularly attended. First responders found Ollie unresponsive near a hallway leading to a kitchen, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. Her grandson, 17-year-old Jadynn Hamilton, was reportedly the one who sought help for her, but was later identified as a person of interest. Investigators processed the scene and gathered statements. As evidence mounted, Jadynn, who was allegedly present during the assault, was taken into custody. Later that night during questioning, he allegedly confessed to the crime. Jadynn's charged with first-degree murder, and he's been held at the Monroe County Jail on a $500,000 bond. Authorities confirmed he has no prior criminal history and will be tried as an adult. A motive for the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A Florida man is behind bars after authorities say he murdered 2 children and set fire to a mobile home in Pensacola. According to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, 27-year-old John Henry Ralston Jr. is accused of killing 9-year-old Vayden Orum and 7-year-old Rayden Smith before intentionally igniting the trailer where they were staying. The fire broke out on the 7th of November 2025 at the Grand Oak Mobile Home Park in Flaxman Street. Investigators believe one of the children was sexually assaulted prior to the fire. Both victims were found deceased inside the home once the flames were extinguished. John, who lives in the trailer with his own family, escaped the blaze and later sought medical treatment at a local hospital. He was one of 2 adults hospitalized, along with a 3rd child who survived. The second adult was the children's mother, who witnesses say ran into the burning trailer in a desperate attempt to save her kids. She went inside trying to get them, said neighbour John Wenzel. That's a mother's love, but it was too hot. They finally got her out. Tyler Smith, father of Rayden and stepfather of Vayden, told reporters he had known John for years and confirmed the children were staying over at his home that night. How can you expect any human being to do this, Tyler said, let alone an adult to 2 kids? When asked if he had anything more to say, Tyler directed his words to John. John, I hope they will give you hell in prison, because you better be glad they found you before I did. Authorities also discovered a dead dog inside the trailer. John now faces 2 counts of premeditated murder, 1 count of sexual assault on a victim under 12, 1 count of arson, and 1 count of animal cruelty. He's been held without bond at the Escambia County Jail. His first court appearance is scheduled for the 26th of November. Sheriff Chip Simmons called the incident terrible, adding, I don't know what else I can say except please hug your children. A Minnesota man is charged with second-degree murder after allegedly bludgeoning his co-worker to death with a sledgehammer at a food processing facility in Kaikato. 40-year-old David Delong is accused of killing 20-year-old Amber Czech at Advanced Process Technologies, located at 165 Swendred Boulevard Northeast, at around 6 a.m. on the 11th of November 2025. Deputies arrived to find Amber on the cement floor near her workstation with major head trauma and significant blood loss. Despite emergency medical care, she was pronounced dead at the scene. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. According to the criminal complaint, David told a male co-worker, I hit her with your hammer. She's by your toolbox. She's gone. Investigators recovered a bloody sledgehammer near Amber's body. Surveillance footage reportedly shows David leaving his workstation, wearing gloves and walking to Amber's area. He's seen picking up a sledgehammer from a station and swinging it 5 times, once horizontally, consistent with Amber standing, followed by 4 down strikes, consistent with her being on the ground. Investigators confirmed that Amber sustained multiple blows to the head during the attack. David later confessed to law enforcement that he intended to kill Amber, admitted he did not like her, and said he had been planning the attack for some time. Wright County Attorney Brian Lute said David acknowledged in the statement that he intended to kill the victim, adding that the confession could support a first-degree murder charge. Prosecutors are considering presenting the case to a grand jury to pursue that upgrade, which requires proof of premeditation. David was taken into custody without incident. The motive appears personal, but further investigative details have not been released. 18-year-old Airron Billiot of Galliano, Louisiana is behind bars, accused of stabbing 2 female relatives in the neck during a domestic incident. At around 10:20 p.m. on Tuesday the 4th of November 2025, authorities responded to a 911 call reporting a violent disturbance at a residence on North 2nd Street in Golden Meadow, Louisiana. When officers arrived, they allegedly found Airron armed with a knife and attacking family members. He surrendered without incident and was taken into custody at the scene. Inside the home, authorities discovered 2 female victims, one in her 60s and the other in her 30s, each suffering from stab wounds to the neck. Both were transported to a nearby hospital for emergency treatment. Their current conditions have not been released. Investigators say Airron had been involved in escalating conflicts with family members throughout the day. At one point, he allegedly threatened to kill everyone in the house. During questioning, Airron reportedly admitted to stabbing both women. He's now charged with 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder, and he's been held at the Lafourche Parish Correctional Centre in Thibodaux on a $500,000 bond. A man in Hamilton County, Tennessee is facing multiple charges after he allegedly killed a woman by setting her on fire inside a camper. According to authorities, the incident occurred at around 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday the 11th of November 2025. That afternoon, 39-year-old Christopher Allen Medula allegedly doused Angela Michelle Palacio in gasoline and used a cigarette lighter to ignite the fire while she was inside a camper located in the 1800 block of Clift Eldridge Road in Soddy Daisy. A nearby camper heard Angela screaming for help and drove towards the source of the noise. He reportedly saw Christopher on the front patio trying to hold the camper door shut while Angela attempted to escape. After confronting Christopher, the witness saw Angela covered in burns and flames, with smoke pouring from the camper. As Christopher fled uphill, he allegedly shouted, "I had to do it," and she was poisoning the world. Angela appeared to move toward the camper again, possibly disorientated or in shock, prompting the witness to shout for her to stay back. He then pursued Christopher, eventually finding him hiding behind a tree. Christopher reportedly continued making statements like "she's the devil," before complying with orders to get on the ground. The witness held him at gunpoint until deputies arrived. Angela was airlifted to a hospital in Nashville, with third-degree burns covering approximately 70% of her body. Despite emergency treatment, she later died from her injuries. Investigators say Angela was able to identify Christopher as the suspect before being transported. He allegedly admitted to setting her on fire during an interview with law enforcement. Christopher was initially charged with aggravated arson, attempted first-degree murder and aggravated assault. Following Angela's death, those charges have been upgraded to include first-degree murder. He remains in custody at the Hamilton County Jail. Authorities say additional charges may be pending. Although Christopher was initially described as the victim's grandson, the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office later clarified that the two are not related. The investigation remains ongoing. A detention officer in Richland County, South Carolina has been arrested after allegedly using excessive force on 2 inmates. 52-year-old Latasha McClendon was working at the Alvin S. Glen Detention Center when she became involved in a verbal dispute with an inmate inside a cell at around 9 p.m. on the 26th of October 2025. According to the Richland County Sheriff's Department, Latasha sprayed a chemical irritant into the cell and closed the flap door, leaving 2 inmates inside. Deputies were notified of the incident on the 6th of November. After reviewing surveillance footage and other evidence, investigators determined that the use of force was excessive. Latasha was arrested and charged with 2 counts of assault and battery in the 3rd degree, along with misconduct in office. She was booked into the same facility and is currently awaiting a bond hearing. A 20-year-old woman is behind bars accused of stabbing her 2-year-old brother. At around 2:30 p.m. on Saturday the 1st of November 2025, authorities responded to a residence along Burke Lane in Brick Township, New Jersey, after a 911 caller reported a stabbing involving a toddler. When officers arrived, they found a child with a stab wound to the chest. He was still conscious and was transported to Jersey Shore University Hospital, where he remains in a stable condition. The suspect, 20-year-old Marlene Rodriguez, was taken into custody at the scene. She's charged with attempted murder, unlawful possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, and endangering the welfare of a child. Marlene is currently being held at the Ocean County Jail pending a detention hearing. The motive of the stabbing remains unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 46-year-old California woman may spend the rest of her life behind bars for killing her ex-boyfriend, bludgeoning him in the face with a frying pan and slitting his throat, before burying his body in a makeshift tomb beneath a backyard patio in San Bernardino. On Monday, the 10th of November 2025, a jury in San Bernardino County found Trista and Spicer guilty of murdering 42-year-old Eric Mercado. The conviction includes a sentencing enhancement for the use of a deadly weapon. Trista now faces 16 years to life in state prison, with sentencing scheduled for the 20th of January 2026. Eric was reported missing in late 2014. His remains were discovered on the 23rd of August 2022, after Trista's then-boyfriend Waylon Gentry contacted police with a tip about human remains buried on her property. Waylon told investigators that Trista had confessed to moving Eric's body from beneath a set of concrete steps after learning a family planned to sell the home. She allegedly asked Waylon to help her get rid of the body before relocating to Illinois. "I didn't know what she meant," Waylon testified. "She said he was buried under the stairs. I did not believe her." He said he ultimately went to police after speaking with his mother, who urged him to do the right thing. Detectives obtained a search warrant for the property at 1436 East Davison Street in San Bernardino and executed it later that day at around 3 p.m, uncovering a concealed compartment on the property. Inside, they found Eric's remains wrapped in a sliced air mattress. The hidden space measured approximately 8 feet wide, 6 feet high and 3 feet deep. According to the medical examiner, Eric's nose and eye socket had been obliterated, injuries that would have caused death within seconds. Investigators described the burial site as a makeshift tomb and confirmed that Trista and Eric had been living together at the home. During the trial, Trista testified that she met Eric earlier that year and claimed he pressured her into using methamphetamine after 6 years of sobriety. She alleged that the relationship quickly turned abusive, both physically and emotionally, but said she was too afraid to report it. According to her account, the fatal encounter occurred in October 2014. Trista said Eric had become enraged over a meal she had prepared and threw it at her. At the time, she was sitting naked on the couch, something she claimed he had ordered her to do. She alleged that he then stabbed her in the neck and demanded coffee. While in the kitchen, she said she grabbed a frying pan and struck him in the face with both hands, before slitting his throat. Trista maintained that she acted in self-defense, but the jury ultimately rejected that claim. A Wisconsin man has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for the death of his infant child. Shavale Powell, now 22, pleaded guilty to homicide by negligent handling of a dangerous weapon, avoiding trial in a case that began with a 2021 emergency call and ended with a plea deal 4 years later. On the morning of the 14th of February 2021, emergency personnel were called to a home in the 1800 block of LaSalle Street in Racine, Wisconsin, for a pulseless, non-breathing infant. Officers arrived to find a 39-day-old baby deceased. The Milwaukee County Medical Examiner ruled the death a homicide, citing abusive head trauma. The infant had suffered blunt force injuries to the head, chest and extremities. While investigating the scene, authorities discovered that an 18-month-old child in the same home had significant bruising and trauma to the left eye. According to the criminal complaint, the parents told law enforcement that the child hit his face after slipping in the shower while his mother was at work and Shavale was home alone with him. Police reviewed Shavale's phone and found a photo taken at 11:30 a.m. on the 13th of February, less than 24 hours before the emergency call, which showed the child uninjured at the time. The Racine County Children's Advocacy Center later examined the child and determined the injuries were concerning for abuse. Investigators also learned that the same child had suffered an eye injury at just 5 months old. Shavale was arrested and charged with first-degree reckless homicide as a party to a crime, along with 2 counts of intentional physical abuse of a child. He was 17 years old at the time. On the 6th of November 2025, Shavale entered a guilty plea to a reduced charge of homicide by negligent handling of a dangerous weapon. The 2 child abuse charges were dismissed as part of a plea agreement. A judge sentenced him to 5 years in prison, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. A Cleveland County Sheriff's deputy has been charged with first-degree murder following a deadly domestic violence incident at his apartment in Shelby, North Carolina. The shooting occurred late Thursday night on the 6th of November 2025 at Crown Ridge Apartments, located at 1635 South DeKalb Street. At around 10:35 p.m., a 911 caller reported gunfire. Shelby police officers arrived. They entered an apartment and found a woman suffering from gunshot wounds to her chest. Despite life-saving measures by first responders, she was pronounced dead at the scene. The victim's been identified as 40-year-old Chiquita Denoris George. During the preliminary investigation, Shelby police determined that a law enforcement officer from a neighbouring jurisdiction was involved. Due to that connection, the department requested assistance from the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. As a result of the investigation, warrants were obtained for 37-year-old Mitchell Jermaine Hilton, who lived at the same apartment as the victim. Mitchell was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder. He's currently being held without bond following a court appearance on Friday the 7th of November. Mitchell completed basic law enforcement training in 2023 and was hired by the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office shortly thereafter. The agency confirmed it was deeply saddened by the incident, which involved one of its deputies. No further details have been released about the events leading up to the shooting or what preceded the violence inside the shared apartment. The investigation is ongoing. 41-year-old Luis Marquez has been charged with murder in the fatal stabbing of his ex-girlfriend 47-year-old Carmen Lopez inside a Harlem, New York apartment building at 409 West 129th Street on the 10th of November 2025. According to police, Luis and Carmen had been in an in-and-off relationship. Investigators say Luis had been drinking and was upset because he believed Carmen was the love of his life, but she didn't feel the same way. He allegedly felt disrespected and claimed she had used him and failed to make him a priority. Hours before the attack, Luis allegedly followed Carmen to a club where he watched her from a distance. Later that night, at around 4:25 a.m, he was captured on surveillance video hiding in the stairwell of her building's third floor for more than 2 hours. When Carmen stepped off the elevator, Luis allegedly pinned her to the ground and stabbed her more than 50 times in the stomach, throat and chest. Prosecutors said she screamed Luis no during the attack. Even after she lay motionless, Luis allegedly continued stabbing her. The knife punctured Carmen's aorta and liver. She was rushed to the Mount Sinai Morningside Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Neighbours were awakened by her screams. One resident described seeing blood throughout the hallway and said Carmen had tried to run before collapsing. Afterward, Luis went to the Lincoln Hospital with cuts on his hands. He was placed under psychiatric evaluation before being arrested on Tuesday the 11th of November. He reportedly told investigators he had no memory of the incident and was blackout drunk at the time. Luis has no prior criminal history. He was arraigned before a judge on the 12th of November on a murder charge, pleaded not guilty and he's been held without bail. His next court appearance is scheduled for the 17th of November. Luis, a Bronx resident originally from Venezuela, came to the United States in 2017. Carmen was a mother of 4. The investigation remains ongoing. 41-year-old Ramone Clayton was arrested on the 27th of October 2025 in San Diego, California, in connection with the 2012 shooting death of his wife, 35-year-old Staphanie Ulette Clayton, in Miami Gardens, Florida. Authorities say Ramone shot Staphanie during a gathering at her home on Northwest 207th Street on the 23rd of September 2012. Witnesses reported that he pushed her to the ground and then shot her in the head before fleeing the scene in a vehicle. An arrest warrant was issued for second-degree murder and use of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Despite ongoing efforts by Miami Gardens detectives and the U.S. Marshals Service, Ramone remained at large for 13 years. A recent tip led law enforcement to his location in San Diego, where he was taken into custody by members of the San Diego County Sheriff's Office Fugitive Task Force, the FBI and the U.S. Marshals. According to Sergeant Jeremy McIntyre, Ramone's only words during the arrest were, "You got me." He's currently being held without bond at the San Diego County Jail and is awaiting extradition to Florida. Miami Gardens Police Chief Delma Noel Pratt commented, "We don't forget. Justice has no expiry date." A Bixby, Oklahoma mother accused of smothering her infant to death while intoxicated now faces a felony charge of child neglect. 31-year-old Sarah Jamison has been charged in Tulsa County and is scheduled to appear in court for arraignment on Wednesday the 12th of November 2025. The charge stems from a tragic incident on the 18th of October, when Sarah allegedly fell asleep drunk in bed with a 5-month-old son, who was later found unresponsive. According to a probable cause affidavit, Sarah drank a 6-pack of Voodoo Ranger Juice Force beer and took a shot of rum that night. The child's father returned home from work at around 10 p.m. and reportedly drank with Sarah on the couch. At some point, she brought the baby to bed with her. In the morning, the father noticed that the infant was not breathing beneath Sarah's shoulder. He attempted CPR and called 911. Police arrived at 5:44 a.m. to find the baby grey and unresponsive. Sarah remained asleep until officers shined a flashlight on her, yelled and shook the bed for nearly 2 minutes. The smell of alcohol was strong in the room. Officers reported that Sarah slurred her speech, smelled of alcohol, and needed help walking to the couch. In a moment of anguish, she allegedly said, "If my kid is dead, I might as well be too." She then added, "I said I needed help. I tried to get help." Sarah later told investigators that she had been struggling with postpartum depression. She said she didn't drink during her pregnancy, but began drinking about 6 weeks after giving birth. Her symptoms with the child were reportedly worse than with her previous children. Roughly 3 hours after police arrived, Sarah's blood alcohol was measured at .309. She remains in custody at the Tulsa County Jail. No plea has been entered publicly, and the medical examiner's report has not yet been released. 38-year-old Davarius James was sentenced to life in prison on the 5th of November 2025 for the murder of his girlfriend 50-year-old Claudette Robinson. The killing occurred on the 3rd of February 2025 inside their shared home on the 900 block of North 7th Avenue in Pensacola, Florida. Investigators say Davarius became enraged after Claudette gave away some of his personal belongings to family and friends. The argument escalated into a violent assault. Claudette was beaten and strangled. At around 7 a.m., Davarius called a longtime friend and asked her to check on Claudette. When the friend arrived, Davarius was still at the house. She found Claudette unresponsive, with blunt force trauma to her body and face, her right eye swollen shut, and her body cold to the touch. Davarius claimed the injuries were from a fall, and reportedly said this isn't going to look good. Her friend stepped outside to call for help, but instead of calling 911 herself, she contacted Claudette's family. Davarius fled the scene shortly thereafter. It was a family member who ultimately called 911 at 3:29 p.m, more than 8 hours after his initial call. Deputies instructed the friend to call him back on speakerphone. During that call, Davarius said she's been dead, and hung up when he realized police were listening. Claudette's body was found in a recliner, contradicting Davarius's later claim that he helped her to bed and fell asleep beside her. The medical examiner documented extensive trauma, broken ribs, a fractured chest plate, fractured cartilage in Claudette's throat, hemorrhaging to the top part of her spinal cord and the base of her brain, a broken hyoid bone, and air bubbles in her blood vessels. The examiner compared her injuries to those seen in high-impact car crashes. Davarius later told detectives the injuries came from Claudette falling during a struggle. When pressed on inconsistencies, he claimed she fell in a twisting motion. He said she was wobbly, walked to the bathroom and collapsed again. He poured cold water on her when she began shaking, then helped her to bed, and fell asleep by her side. The next morning, he found her body stiff and began calling friends. He had previously been arrested for domestic violence against Claudette, who had expressed fear that he might kill her. Prosecutors presented evidence of internet searches Davarius made after the incident, including if I performed CPR over 5 hours ago, why isn't it working, how to tell if someone is dead, and signs of choking by the neck. Jurors deliberated for less than 30 minutes before finding Davarius guilty of second-degree murder. He received a mandatory life sentence with no possibility of parole. He was also convicted of tampering with evidence and received an additional 5-year sentence. 48-year-old Bruce Lee Cockrell Jr. has pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and arson in the death of his wife, 35-year-old Tonya Marie Ligon Cockrell. The attack occurred on the night of Monday, the 8th of July 2024, inside their home on Hempstead County Road in Fulton, Arkansas, At 8:41 p.m, a neighbour called 911 reporting a house fire and a woman who had been badly burned. When deputies and firefighters arrived, they found Tonya with second and third degree burns covering nearly her entire body. Bruce was at the scene, shirtless and silent, helping move her to the ambulance. Tonya was rushed to the Krista St. Michael's Hospital in Texarkana, then airlifted to Arkansas Children's Hospital burn unit in Little Rock. She was barely conscious, but still able to speak. Bruce had claimed the fire started in the bedroom due to faulty wiring, but Tonya told medical staff that he had poured weed eater gas on her and set her on fire. In her official statement to the sheriff's office, she said he was hitting me and punching me and telling me how ugly I was, and then he poured gasoline on me and set me on fire. She died later that night from her injuries before Bruce was booked into jail at 10:52 p.m. He was charged with domestic battery in the first-degree serious injury, capital murder, arson, and criminal mischief for property damage. During interviews, Bruce admitted that he and Tonya had been drinking and arguing about the children, finances, and past relationships. He said he grabbed a gas container from the kitchen and poured it on her while she sat on the bed. According to Bruce, she lit a cigarette and ran out the front door as flames engulfed her body. On Thursday, the 13th of November 2025, Bruce appeared in court and entered a negotiated guilty plea to first-degree murder and arson of property, valued between $2,500 and $5,000, effectively waiving the death penalty. He was sentenced the same day. Before sentencing, Tonya's sister Nicole Smith stood in court, holding back tears. She looked directly at Bruce and spoke about the loss of her baby sister. She thanked prosecutors for their compassion and dedication. After a statement, the judge sentenced Bruce to 45 years for murder and 30 years for arson, to be served consecutively, a total of 75 years in prison. 29-year-old Matthew Terrence has been arrested and charged with assault following a shooting outside Valley Express Liquors in Louisville, Kentucky on the night of Saturday, the 1st of November 2025. According to court documents, surveillance footage captured Matthew in a verbal altercation with a man standing outside the store in the 5400 block of Valley Station Road. The situation escalated when the man allegedly threw a cigarette butt into Matthew's vehicle, prompting him to exit the car and continue the argument. Matthew then reportedly pulled a firearm and shot the man at least twice in the stomach. Police said the victim sustained non-life-threatening injuries. Matthew left the scene and later contacted authorities, claiming he acted in self-defense. He was taken into custody and charged with assault. A Greenville, North Carolina woman is behind bars accused of assaulting a child with an extension cord. 34-year-old Krystal Johnson was arrested by Greenville police on Wednesday the 29th of October 2025. Authorities say she struck an 11-year-old child with an extension cord, causing multiple abrasions, bruises and cuts as a result of the attack. Krystal was charged with intentional child abuse, inflicting serious physical injury. She's held at the Pitt County Jail on a $50,000 bond. A man has been convicted of killing a woman whose body was found hidden in a closet in Columbia, Missouri. On the 14th of November 2025, 40-year-old Adam Alfred Connor appeared by video and pleaded guilty to second-degree murder before a Boone County judge. He has also been charged with tampering with evidence, but prosecutors dismissed that charge as part of a plea deal. The state recommended a 30-year sentence in the Missouri Department of Corrections. Judge Stephanie Morrill said she will push for Adam to receive credit for time served, dating back to his arrest in October of 2022. He remains in custody at the Boone County Jail without bail. Investigators say that Adam killed 59-year-old Patricia Kelly on the 8th of October 2022 by striking her in the head with the claw end of a hammer. Kelly, who had mental and physical disabilities, was living with Adam's mother as a roommate in the home they all shared at 1711 Highquest Drive. Police were called to the residence on the 10th of October after Adam's mother reported she hadn't seen Kelly in 3 days. When officers arrived, both Adam and his mother were present. Given Kelly's known health conditions, officers asked to search the home. Adam's mother gave consent. Inside the garage, officers found a closet with a body, covered by a rug with a wheelchair placed on top. A hand was sticking out from underneath the rug, and the victim's legs had been bound. Blood was visible on several items, and on the garage floor outside the closet. Elsewhere in the home, officers found a carpet cleaner in the living room with blood inside the water collection tank. Adam's mother noted that the rug normally kept under the dining room table was missing. Blood was also found near a doorknob of Adam's bedroom. Early that morning at around 3 a.m, Kelly's medical alert device registered 3 emergency signals just minutes apart, triggering a multi-press alarm. An employee from the alarm company reported hearing constant panting when attempting to contact the subscriber, but was unable to confirm the safety. The GPS signal traced the device to the residence. That same morning, Adam told his mother not to go into the garage, claiming a raccoon had gotten inside. He later barricaded the garage door with a chair as a reminder. While processing the scene, investigators found several trash bags in the backyard. Inside were bloody clothing, a bloody claw hammer, and personal documents belonging to Adam. Kelly's injuries were consistent with the claw end of the hammer. A 20-year-old woman in Natrona County, Wyoming is facing felony charges after allegedly pouring boiling water on her grandfather's head while he slept in the early hours of Wednesday the 5th of November 2025. Kalina Tapaevalu is charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault and battery. Prosecutors say the second count stems from a use of a pot of boiling water as a deadly weapon. Each charge carries a potential sentence of up to 10 years. Her bond is set at $75,000 cash only. At 3:39 a.m, hospital staff called 911 to report a patient with severe burns to his head and back. The man told deputies he had been attacked while sleeping. A deputy described a silver dollar-sized wound on the top left side of the man's head and noted that the injury appeared to result from water being slowly poured. The victim said he woke up in extreme pain, fled the house and drove himself to the hospital. As he left, he recalled hearing a voice saying, "You'll have a week to leave or I'll kill you." According to the affidavit, the man had moved in about a month earlier. Family members told deputies he had been mentally and verbally abusive, particularly towards Kalina, but had not been physically violent. They said they had asked him to leave several times, but felt obligated to let him stay due to cultural and familial ties. One incident involved the grandfather allegedly breaking down Kalina's bedroom door with a hammer or sledgehammer. Kalina told investigators that she feared him and was disturbed by his behaviour, including demands that she button or unbutton his shirts. Prosecutors said Kalina tried adding salt and hot sauce to the boiling water in order to cause more pain. Investigators noted that she mistakenly used garlic powder instead of salt during the early morning incident. Kalina reportedly told deputies that she intended to repeat the act nightly until her grandfather left. She moved to Wyoming from Sacramento, California in August of 2024 and had been working at a chain pizza restaurant since. The victim remains hospitalized in a serious but non-life-threatening condition. The investigation is ongoing. An autopsy report released on the 13th of November 2025 confirms that 34-year-old Oriel Lowe, a Duke Health nurse in North Carolina, died from asphyxiation due to strangulation. Police say she was killed by her boyfriend, 31-year-old Christopher Whitley, inside her apartment on Laurel Springs Drive in Durham. The two have been dating for about 2 months after meeting through a dating app. According to the autopsy and police reports, the murder occurred at around 5 a.m. on the 10th of September. Christopher told investigators he was in a poor mood and became violent when Oriel tried to console him. He admitted to hitting her twice, smashing glass over her head and then strangling her. At around 10 a.m, Christopher called his brother to confess, then FaceTimed an ex-girlfriend and showed Oriel's body on camera. The ex-girlfriend called 911, prompting a multi-hour standoff. Christopher barricaded himself inside the apartment before police were able to take him into custody. Officers later recovered a gun from the scene, which he said belonged to Oriel. He claimed fear of retaliation contributed to the escalation. The medical examiner noted that Christopher's account aligned with the physical evidence. He's been charged with first-degree murder and remains held at the Durham County Jail without bond. Prosecutors revealed he has 2 prior convictions, including assault on a family member in Texas. His next court appearance is scheduled for the 15th of January 2026. Oriel's parents, Teresa and Paul, say they never met Christopher and are urging dating platforms to implement stronger safety measures. Everything that she thought this person wasn't that, Paul said. 54-year-old Jerome McDaniel is behind bars, accused of fatally shooting 50-year-old James Hubbard Jr. At 3:06 a.m. on Thursday, the 13th of November 2025, police responded to a 911 call regarding an unresponsive individual in the 1000 block of South Rosser Street in Forest City, Arkansas. Upon arrival, officers located James slumped over in the driver's seat of a black Chevrolet Malibu, parked in front of his apartment. He had sustained a gunshot wound to the head and was pronounced dead at the scene. According to police, a man and his girlfriend initially discovered James and contacted law enforcement, but both left before officers arrived. At just after midnight on Saturday the 15th of November, Forest City Police arrested Jerome in connection to the shooting. He's been charged with first-degree murder and remains held at the St. Francis County Jail without bond. The relationship between the men and the motive remains unclear as the investigation into the matter continues. Police in Illinois have arrested a man in Henry County for sex crimes involving animals. On the 9th of November 2025, deputies from the Henry County Sheriff's Office responded to a report of a possible trespasser inside a livestock building in rural Geneseo. The caller reported seeing a suspicious male inside the structure, but the individual fled before law enforcement arrived. Following an investigation, authorities identified the suspect as 64-year-old Mark Leasing of Kalina. Mark was arrested and charged with burglary and sexual acts with an animal. He was booked into the Henry County Jail, where he remains in custody pending a court hearing on the 12th of November. No further details have been released. A domestic dispute turned deadly after 23-year-old Miles Brooks fatally shot his older brother, 26-year-old Anthony Brooks, inside the home they shared. At 1:47 p.m. on Sunday, the 2nd of November 2025, authorities responded to a residence in the 400 block of Ridgeland Avenue in Oak Park, Illinois, after receiving a 911 call reporting a shooting during a verbal altercation between two brothers. The caller told dispatchers that they had advised Miles to leave the residence unarmed, and he complied before officers arrived. Inside the home, first responders found Anthony unresponsive with a gunshot wound to the head. Paramedics from the Oak Park Fire Department pronounced him dead at the scene. Miles was taken into custody without incident outside the residence and transported to the Oak Park Police Department for questioning. On Tuesday, the 4th of November, he was formally charged with first-degree murder. He remains held at the Cook County Jail pending a detention hearing at the Maywood Courthouse. Authorities have not disclosed what sparked the argument that led to the shooting. The investigation is ongoing. On the 13th of November 2025, 23-year-old Tykedra Leonard was sentenced to 50 years in prison after pleading no contest to second-degree murder with a weapon. The case stems from a fatal stabbing on the 20th of May 2022. Officers responded to a 911 call from a residence along South 14th Street in Palatka, Florida. When they arrived, they found Tykedra kneeling over a boyfriend, 26-year-old Airron Brooks Jr., who had suffered multiple stab wounds. He was transported to a hospital, where he later died. Tykedra initially told investigators she believed Airron was an intruder and stabbed him with a kitchen knife in self-defense. However, surveillance footage contradicted that claim, showing the couple entering and exiting the home together shortly before the incident. In a follow-up interview, Tykedra changed her account, stating an argument had escalated and she stabbed Airron after he allegedly grabbed her by the neck, but that version also conflicted with the forensic evidence. According to the medical examiner, Airron sustained 2 stab wounds, one to the chest and another to the back, along with scratches and a bite mark on his forearm. State Attorney R.J. Laritza said, "Domestic violence always has the potential to turn deadly." Tykedra refused to accept responsibility for killing her boyfriend, showing no remorse and offering no acknowledgement of guilt. She will have 50 years to reflect on the damage inflicted on our victim and his family. A former employee of Farmington Central Elementary School in Western Illinois has pleaded guilty to soliciting a minor for sex at her home. 40-year-old Kelly Miller of Farmington appeared in Fulton County Circuit Court on the 30th of October 2025, where she pleaded guilty to indecent solicitation of a child, a felony that carries a potential prison sentence of up to 5 years. Probation is also an option. The case stems from an incident on Saturday, the 17th of August 2024. According to a Farmington police report, the victim, a 13-year-old boy, had attended a football scrimmage with his girlfriend and her parents, one of whom is Kelly. After the group returned to Kelly's residence on Idlewild Drive, she allegedly began drinking. The boy was staying overnight when, according to his account, Kelly began sending disturbing messages via Snapchat, asking for oral sex. He told police the messages continued throughout the night. Later, while trying to sleep in the basement, the boy said Kelly approached him again with the same request, which he refused. At around 4 a.m, he reported feeling Kelly's arm around him. He pushed her away and called his mother, who instructed him to meet her at a nearby Circle K gas station on East 4th Street. Police met the boy and his mother at 5:45 a.m. Sunday morning. The mother relayed the details of the alleged encounter to officers. Kelly was taken into custody and appeared in court on Monday the 19th of August. She was released shortly after, though the conditions of her release were not disclosed. She has since changed her plea and remains free on pre-trial release pending sentencing, scheduled for the 15th of January 2026. Farmington Central School District Superintendent Zach Chatterton confirmed that Kelly, who was a teacher's aide, is no longer employed by the district.